Hello class, welcome to lesson 7-8, which is about special products. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the squares of sums and differences, and you should be able to find the product of a sum and a difference. So let's jump right in and talk about the square of a sum. So when I say the square of a sum, I mean we have something that looks like this, where I say 3x plus 4, and I say that is squared. So that's the same thing as saying that we have 3x plus 4 times 3x plus 4. Remember, the square means that's how many times it's being multiplied by itself. That doesn't mean it's being multiplied by 2. Sometimes people still get that a little confused, okay? So what I'm going to teach you here is a little shortcut to solving these problems. I highly recommend that you take a screenshot of this key concept and then save it in your folder, because knowing and memorizing this is going to help you get faster than even using the FOIL method. So let's practice. Let's quickly rewrite down what we had. So when you have a square of a sum, that's the same as taking that first term squared plus 2 times the first and second term plus the second term squared. So if we look at our first example, we want to find each product. We have 8c plus 3a. So this is going to be our a. This is going to be our b. Okay? So we have a squared. That means we have 8c squared plus 2 times a times b plus b squared. So 8c squared, remember this 2 gets distributed both to the number and the variable, so that becomes 64c squared plus, and then for whole numbers I have 2 times 8 times 3, which brings me to 48, and then I have a times c for variables plus, remember, distribute to both the number and the variable, I have 9a squared. Okay. For this, I'm not as concerned about you having it in alphabetical order, okay? So that's how you would do that problem. Let's try another one. So I have my a term, I have my b term. So my a term squared, that's 3 squared, that's 9x squared plus 2 times a times b plus b squared, so that's 16y squared. So I do 4 squared, 16, and then y squared. So I have 9x squared plus 2 times 3 times 4 gives me 24xy plus 16y squared. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't seem too bad, and once you memorize that little formula, it goes faster than doing first, outer, inner, last, okay? Go ahead and try to find 3x plus 2 squared. Hopefully you ended up with 9x squared plus 12x plus 4. If not, be sure to ask for some help. Okay, so we talked about the square of a sum. Let's talk about the square of a difference. That's when we have a minus b, and that quantity squared. It's basically the same thing, except instead of adding the 2ab, we're going to subtract it. Okay, so we have a minus b. So a minus b squared equals a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so again, my a term, my b term, remember to take that negative with your b term. So a squared is going to give me 36p squared minus 2 times my a term times my b term plus b squared, so that's going to be plus 1. All right, then I just need to simplify that down. So I have 36p squared plus, because I have a negative 2 times a negative 1, that's a positive 2, times 6 is 12p plus 1. Okay, so that would be my first answer. Now I have my a term and my b term. Remember that negative goes with my b term. So I have a squared minus 2 times a times b plus b squared. So that's negative 2b squared. That becomes positive 4b squared. So my answer ends up being a squared minus, we have negative 2 times negative 2, so that actually turns into plus 4ab plus 4b squared. Okay, so be really careful when you have that minus and then also a negative that's going to turn into a plus. Go ahead and try to solve one on your own. Hopefully, again, you ended up with 4m squared minus 12n plus 9. If you have questions, be sure to ask. Okay, so now we want to write an expression that represents the area of a square. Okay, so I have a square, and I know that area for a square is the side times the side, or side squared, because all of my sides are the same since it's a square. Okay, so we want to write an expression that represents the area of a square that has a side length of 3x plus 12. So I can replace this. It's going to be 3x plus 12. And that is going to go on every side. Okay? So that means I'm going to have 3x plus 12 squared. So I'm going to follow that same formula where for sum of squares, remember it's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So my a squared gives me 9x squared plus 2 times a times b plus b squared, so 12 squared is 144. So I have 9x squared plus, that would be 72x plus 144. And since we're talking about the area of a square, I'm going to say units squared, just because it's a word problem, okay? So I'm putting a label there. So that's all I'd have to do is area of square. I know you multiply the sides by each other. I did that, and I ended up with my answer. Go ahead and try one on your own. Hopefully you ended up with 9x squared minus 24x plus 16 units squared. If you have any questions about that, be sure to ask. Okay, so we've talked about the product of sums, difference. Now let's talk about if we have one of each. So we have a sum and a difference. This one ends up being a bit different. You end up with just a squared minus b squared, okay? This is another thing I highly recommend taking a picture of. Okay, so I have 3n and 3n, and I have 2 and 2, but I have a plus and I have a minus. So that means my new formula is just going to be a squared minus b squared. So my a term is still the first one, my b term is still the second one. So I square my a term, and I square my b term. Okay, so I have 9n squared minus 4. That's all that I have to write there. Then, if we have 4c minus 7d and 4c plus 7d, again, I'm going to take my a term and square it, take my d term, or my b term and square it. So I have 16c squared minus 49d squared. And that's it. That's all you have to write. So you can see how memorizing that is beneficial because then you don't go through all of the steps of FOIL. Here's your last problem to do. Good luck. Hopefully you ended up with 9y squared minus 4. If you have any questions about this last problem or anything from the rest of the video, be sure to ask for some help. Have a fantastic day.